For today, I'm going to be going over a bold prediction or hot take that I have for each NFL team going into this season. Now, quick disclaimer, I don't necessarily think all these predictions are going to happen. I just think they are somewhat of a bold prediction that I wouldn't be surprised if they were to happen, and I probably would be less surprised than most people. So these aren't necessarily all gonna happen. They not necessarily all can happen, and I don't necessarily think they all happen, but I think they have a better chance to happen than maybe more people, and it's just to have some fun bold predictions. And in the comment section below, let me know some of your bold predictions or hot takes for this upcoming season. And without further ado, let's get into the first team, which is the Buffalo Bills. Now the Bills were an interesting one because I feel like we know what to expect from the Bills at this point. I feel like if you want to go something that hasn't happened or doesn't have the highest chance to happen, it's probably either they win the Super Bowl or they lose early in the playoffs. Like if you just have them being really good and making it to the AFC Championship, they've done that many times, and I don't think they're going to be to the point where they miss the playoffs. So my bold prediction for the Bills is that they lose early in the playoffs in the wild card or in the divisional. And part of the reason why is I don't think they'll necessarily have the highest seed because I do think teams in their division like the Patriots and the Dolphins and maybe even the Jets could have pretty decent years, give them some losses within their division, lowering their seed. And I do think they might have to play a really good team early on, which could cause them to lose somewhat early in the playoffs. Now going to the Dolphins, my bold prediction for the Miami Dolphins is that this offense returns to its 2022/2023 form and that Tua has one of, if not best year of his career. First of all, the offense is healthy. I know Achane might miss a few games, but for the most part, the offense is healthy. And another reason why I think statistically Tua and the Dolphins offense is going to be really good is because I think their defense, mainly their secondary, might not be the best, which could inflate their offensive stats because they're going to be on the field a ton. They're going to need to be throwing the ball a ton to stay in games because of that secondary. So I think that could cause a lot of good stats for the Dolphins offense, and if they're healthy, I think Tua can have a very good bounce back year after a disappointing year last year. For the New York Jets, my bold prediction is that not only some of these have like combined predictions that kind of correlate but aren't exactly the same. It's that Justin Fields will be a top 5 fantasy quarterback and the Jets will win 7+ games. First of all, Justin Fields' side of things. He's got Garrett Wilson. I really like the Mason Taylor pick. I think their O-line's improving. I like the backfield of Breece Hall and Braylon Allen. And I think they can also get 7+ games because if their defense can stay healthy, I think they can have a very good defense. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Jets surprise some people. I think their over-under is like 5.5 or something like that. So I won't be surprised if they crack 7+ games and Justin Fields as a fantasy quarterback, because he's been top 5, top 3 before, has another top 5 fantasy season. Now moving on to the Patriots, my bold prediction for the Patriots is that they finish last in the division. I know a lot of people are high on the Patriots, including myself. You know, Drake May's entering year 2 and year 1 as a starter. Mike Vrabel's coming in. They spent a ton of money in the offseason. But I think the Jets could surprise some people. I think the Dolphins can still be good. The Bills are obviously really good. And I think the Patriots, although they spent a ton of money, there is a lot of moving parts on this Patriots team. They've made so much change that that either could be for the better and it all works out, or it takes them a while to gel and that may result in some struggles early on in the year. So that's why my bold prediction for the Patriots is to finish last in the AFC East. Now we get to the Ravens. My bold prediction is that they make the Super Bowl. Similar to the Bills, it's either make/win the Super Bowl or miss the playoffs / lose early in the playoffs. And I actually like this Ravens team. I think it's the best team overall that Lamar has had. You have your receiver core of Bateman, Flowers, D-Hop. You have a really good receiver room or tight end room of Likely and Andrews. The O-line's good. You have Derrick Henry. The defense, I think, is going to be the best it's been especially in the secondary. And I think the Ravens can finally get over the hump and make the Super Bowl. For the Pittsburgh Steelers, I have that Aaron Rodgers leads them to second in the division. They make the playoffs and they once again go over 500. I have a hard time finding Mike Tomlin losing his over 500 streak. Now, I don't know if it's going to result in much playoff success as it hasn't recently, but if he can, with some of the quarterbacks Pittsburgh has gotten over 500 with, Rodgers definitely isn't the worst. Now, Rodgers wasn't the best last year, but also had some okay final stats. And I think with one of the best defenses in the league, DK Metcalf, two good tight ends, I think Rodgers could lead this team to second place in the division and once again go over 500. For the Cincinnati Bengals, I have them losing Trey Hendrickson. So they trade away Trey Hendrickson and they finish third in the division, similar to Pittsburgh finishing second in the division. Because I really like Pittsburgh as a team that can be sneaky good and get to second place in the division. So my bold take is that the Bengals finish third. I know they finished third last year, but I'm going to have them finishing third again and losing Trey Hendrickson. Don't know how much of a bold take this is, but I just really don't trust that Bengals defense whatsoever. And for the Browns, I have that Shedeur takes the job midway through the season and leads them to a close to 500 record with him in the game. I was really impressed with what I've seen from Shedeur in the preseason. I know it's just the preseason, but if he can take over this quarterback job midway through the season, if he plays like 9 games as a starter and they get 4 out of 5 or 4 out of those 9, I wouldn't be too surprised. And I still think they'll have not the best record, but again, the defense will also help them win some games once he steps up too. Because I still think they can win some games with Joe Flacco, but not a ton. Shedeur takes over and plays pretty decent with them. For the Texans, I have that Stroud is an MVP finalist, like top 3 in MVP, and they win 12 plus games. Now, the Texans, I think, have won 10 games the 2 seasons with Stroud, but I think this is the year. You have a healthy Nico Collins. Now, I know there's no Tank Dell, and the receivers outside of Nico Collins are a little iffy, and Mixon's health is a question mark. But the O-line, I think, is improving. The defense is still one of the best in the league, and I think Stroud is poised for an actual really, really good season in his third year. He had his somewhat of a slump in his year 2. I think they can finally get 12-plus wins, and Stroud can be one of the best quarterbacks in the league. For the Indianapolis Colts, it's a simple one. I have Anthony Richardson being traded at the deadline. I think that they're obviously gonna start Daniel Jones. I'm not saying Daniel Jones is gonna lead them to a lot of wins, although I do like the Colts team outside of Daniel Jones, especially that defense. But I think Daniel Jones is gonna get maybe like 2 wins. Maybe they play Richardson. They don't realize Richardson's helping guys like Downs, Mitchell, or Jonathan Taylor's development. They go back to Daniel Jones and they maximize on Richardson's trade value if he has any, and I think they trade him at the deadline. For the Jaguars, it's about Trevor Lawrence. I think he is once again a top 10 quarterback because he was a top 10 quarterback in, I forgot what season it was. He was a top 10 in MVP, and I also think the Jags get 9-plus wins. I really like this Jags team. I really like the addition of Liam Cohen as their head coach. I think that's one of the biggest additions that any team made this offseason is bringing in a guy like Liam Cohen. And I think Trevor Lawrence can get back to what he has shown to be before in this league. For the Titans, I have that Cam Ward and Calvin Ridley are a top 10 quarterback receiver duo. It seems like Calvin Ridley is Cam Ward's go-to. Calvin Ridley has not had a quarterback as good as Cam Ward, I feel like, in a while. Because he was a part of those Falcons teams that didn't have good quarterbacks. And then you had Trevor Lawrence, who was a little banged up. I think Cam Ward and Calvin Ridley can have a very good first year as a duo and potentially a top 10 season. For the Chiefs, I have that Mahomes has one of his best years of his career and wins MVP easily. I know it's just preseason, but watching that Chiefs offense against the Bears are playing starters, so it's a little bit there's a little bit of meaning to it. Mahomes in that offense looked pretty good. If Kelsey can still be good, if Rice picks up where he left off last year, if Worthy keeps developing, being in the role that I think they want him to be, if Hollywood Brown's healthy, if the O-line's improving, especially getting a guy like Josh Simmons, I think is a huge draft pick for the Chiefs. And the defense is once again very good. They're going to get wins. I think Mahomes easily wins MVP. For the Chargers, I have that Herbert is an MVP finalist, similar to the Stroud take, and that the Chargers make it to the AFC Championship game. I know the whole thing about Herbert is that he doesn't get it done in the playoffs. I think this is the best team he's had by far since he's been the Chargers quarterback. He's now in year 2 of the same coaching that really started throwing the ball towards the end of the season. And again, these are bold predictions, but I think the Chargers make it to the AFC Championship game for my bold prediction. For the Broncos, my bold prediction is that Bo Nix has a slightly worse year 2, because I think he exceeded expectations his rookie year. But I still think the Broncos have the number 1 overall defense. I think they were like second, third, or fourth last year, and they still get 10 plus wins despite Bo Nix having a slightly worse year 2. This isn't the boldest of predictions because I don't think Nix is going to fall off, but I didn't really know what direction to go with the Broncos because I really like the Broncos, but I don't know if I like them enough to have my bold prediction for them making it to like the AFC Championship game or something like that. For the Raiders, I have that Genti is not only one of the best rookies in the league, but I think my bold prediction is that Genti is an Offensive Player of the Year finalist, not just rookies, all of the NFL, and that the Raiders fight for a wild card spot because I really like not only the Pete Carroll hire, but the Geno Smith signing. So I think the Raiders, and I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs, but I think they can fight for that wild card spot towards the end of the year. For the Philadelphia Eagles, I have them not winning the NFC East. When you factor in all the players they lost, Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Darius Slay, all these players they lost, and also on fact that no NFC East champion has repeated in like forever. My bold prediction that the Eagles do not win the division, although I still think even if they were to lose the division, they can still make it far in the playoffs. My bold predictions for the Commanders is that despite Jaden Daniels having a great year 2, they lose in the wild card or even miss the playoffs. They're in one of the best divisions in the league. You have the Eagles. The Cowboys are going to be better than they were last year. The Giants could upset the Commanders in a game. And they also, I believe, play the NFC North, which is the Bears, Vikings, Packers, Lions, the best division in the league. And they only won 10 games, and they kind of exceeded expectations. Like, the way they won games is very hard to repeat. So I wouldn't be surprised if they once again won 10, maybe even 9 games. And I wouldn't be surprised if that amount of wins isn't enough to get them in the playoffs, despite a very good year 2 from Jaden Daniels. For the Cowboys, I had that they win the NFC East because I had the Eagles losing the NFC East earlier. I have the Cowboys winning the NFC East. However, they still lose early in the playoffs. They haven't shown to be good in the playoffs. But I do think they're going to have a very good regular season with a healthy Dak Prescott. For the Giants, I have that they win less than 4 games. I like the Giants team, don't get me wrong, but their schedule is insane. So I have my bold predictions that they win less than 4 games, and Dart ends up taking over quarterback over Russell Wilson, over Jameis Winston. But he looks pretty good as a rookie and is one of the highest offensive rookie of the year finalists. For the Detroit Lions, similar to the Eagles, I have them not winning the division. They lose their offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson. They lose their defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn. They lose 2 key pieces on the O-line, and I believe Frank Ragnow and Kevin Zeitler. And the NFC North is the best division in the league. They have a hard schedule. I could very easily see them not winning the division. And that leads to the Green Bay Packers, and I think my bold prediction for them is that they do win the division, and also that Jordan Love is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, makes a Pro Bowl, and maybe even fights for an MVP / Offensive Player of the Year All-Pro. I really like the Packers team. Their secondary is a little scary, but everything outside of that I really like about the Packers. Especially if Matthew Golden is the real deal too. That makes this a lot higher chance, I think. Moving on to the Bears, my bold prediction is that Caleb Williams has a great year 2 with Ben Johnson, with the improved O-line, with just a better team, and that they win 10 plus games and maybe even finish above the Lions in the division standings. For the Minnesota Vikings, I have that J.J. McCarthy is good in his technical rookie year and that the Vikings also win 10 plus games. So I think not only do I have the Vikings, Bears winning 10 plus games, but I think an overall bold prediction, is that everyone in this division wins 10 plus games. I think it's that good of a division and all those teams are that good. Moving on to the Buccaneers, I have them making the NFC Championship game for my bold prediction. They have a very good offense. I think it's going to be one of the best offenses in the league. And now their defense, although not the best last year, you get guys like Antoine Winfield healthy. And overall, I think the defense is just going to be healthier. And I think they can make a run in the playoffs and get to that NFC Championship game. For the Falcons, my bold prediction is that they have a losing record. Now, they won 8 games last year, so I don't know how much of a bold take this is, but I feel like a lot of people, now that Penix is the quarterback, really like the Falcons. I like the Falcons too. Again, this is a bold prediction, not what I 100% think is going to happen. But I wouldn't be surprised if once again they end up winning 8 games, especially with improvements to teams like the Panthers and with how good I think the Bucs could be. Bold prediction for the Panthers is that Bryce and McMillan are a very good quarterback receiver duo, very similar to Cam Ward and Calvin Ridley, and the Panthers make a push for a playoff spot with 8+ wins. They won 5 last year, so 8 would be a huge improvement, and I think that Bryce and T-Mac have a very good first season together, and they also fight for a playoff spot. For the New Orleans Saints, my bold prediction is that they are not the worst team in the league. In fact, they are not the worst or the second worst team in the league, and Tyler Shuck wins them 4+ games. People are hating on the Saints and thinking they're going to be absolutely terrible, but I think Shuck's NFL pro ready, because he's kind of ready for the pros being an older guy. I think he might actually manage to, again, I don't know how much of a ceiling he has, but I think his floor is higher than people think, and I think he can get them 4+ wins and beat out teams like the Giants and the Browns. The Rams, my bold prediction is that they not only do not win the division, but despite not winning division, they still make it far in the playoffs. I just think regular season-wise, especially with Matthew Stafford's health up in the air, I think they could have a low record and a low seed, but go on a run despite being a 7 or 6 seed. For the Niners, I have that a healthy 49ers team wins the division clearly with like 12 to 13+ wins, because we keep forgetting when this team is healthy, they are still very good. And I think if they are healthy, they will have a phenomenal regular season. My bold prediction for the Seahawks is that they not only finish last in the division behind the Niners, Rams, and Cardinals, but that Jalen Milroe starts the second half of the year and doesn't look half bad. I know they paid Darnold a lot of money, but if they're last in the division, not doing great, I think Milroe starts maybe not the second half of the year, but the last 6 or so games. And then finally, for the Arizona Cardinals, my bold prediction is that not only is Marvin Harrison right back in the discussion with the best receiver from his class, because it's clearly Malik Nabers or Brian Thomas, but my bold prediction, is that not only Marvin Harrison joins right back into those discussions, because he was the first receiver taken in the draft, but he has a top 10 caliber season of all receivers. That is my bold prediction for the Cardinals, and that is also my bold prediction for every team. I know I went a little fast, but we did have 32 teams to get through. Let me know, again, in the comment section below. I want you guys to comment your bold predictions for this season, because I always like doing this to then look back at the end of the season and see if any of these hot takes, bold predictions, crazy things that we said come true, or that we were absolutely wrong on them and they were a bold prediction for a reason. But I'll see you guys next time. Peace.